Welcome to another edition of Digital Marketing 101. I'm Solomon Timothy. Today's question is, I'm redesigning my website. Will my SEO ranking suffer? This is a great question. A lot of people redesign websites all the time, and many do it right, many do it wrong. So let's get started. All right, so in this question, the concern is, hey, I have a really beautiful website, but we're gonna make it even better, but I'm getting a ton of traffic organically. Maybe 50% of my visitors are organic, maybe it's 60, maybe 70, maybe 80% of my traffic is organic. So if I swap my design, will that traffic disappear, right? So if your business relies heavily on those leads from organic traffic, which it should, what happens to my leads? Is building me a new website going to cost me whatever many thousands, if not millions of dollars in business? In order to answer this question, we really got to understand, how does Google look at website redesign? How does SEO work when you're changing the website? We're going to break this down for you, so let's kind of get deeper into it. In order to find out how the SEO of the website are going to be affected in a redesign, we have to first look at how Google looks at this as a whole. Here's your website. Let's just call it a timeline. This is when your website was first indexed and you got traffic. And then here's where you are. You made probably lots of changes. And then you're trying to redesign this website at this point in time. And if you remove content, if you remove title tag, meta descriptions, or you get rid of pages, all that indexation that happened over time and all the valuable content that you've added, if you remove them, Google's not gonna have anything to index. So what it's gonna do, it's gonna start removing pages and your traffic start to go looking like this. And a lot of website owners and webmasters and CEOs say, well, we stopped getting all the leads as soon as the website went live. We stopped getting leads the moment this new fancy branding our website completely took the marketing, completely took the lead gen down. So we're gonna talk about how do we avoid that. Well, first and foremost, I can recommend you, if you are planning, if you are actually in the middle of a redesign, the best thing that you could do right now is plan it out. How are we going to launch this? How are we going to preserve everything about my SEO? How are we going to make sure the content is there, the title tags are there? In my opinion, if you are trying to preserve, right, if you're not getting any traffic, then it doesn't really matter. If you're not getting qualified leads, it doesn't matter. But if you're actually generating leads and those leads are becoming sales, right, customers, then you have a lot to preserve, right? So you have to preserve the traffic, pages, the title tags, and every element that Google looks at. So I'm gonna name you a couple things that you really wanna do in this sort of timeline that you're in this mode of redesigning, revamping, and so on. So first and foremost, you want to save all of your pages, right? All the content, everything that you have should be preserved. And I say title tag, meta description. That is a metadata, right? All the title tag, meta description, H1 tags, everything that's on page, the alt tags, all of that have to be preserved from the old site to the new site. Another thing that you really want to preserve is the URL structure. The URLs should not be changing from the old site to new site. I would highly recommend, if you're consolidating content, then you need to write some 301 redirect and say, hey, my old content was like this, I've consolidated it, here's the new one. So Google's not going to have any 404 pages, and they're going to remove those pages. So think about that. If you can preserve practically everything, in other words, the only thing that's changing from the old site to the new site is the design and not the content, not the URL, not the title tag, not the meta description, not the URL structure, not the schema, not the robots.txt, not any of those things, then you should be okay. Best advice I can tell you is plan. Plan it out. The launch, the rollout, look at it in a test environment, go through all of your top pages that you get traffic, make sure the content is there, have some QA in place to make sure you're not gonna lose the ranking. Now, what do you think most companies do? They look at it and say, man, it looks great, way better than the last website. Look at that, we got rid of all this stuff. This looks so much cleaner. All my content is like so much better. Our About Us page is half the size and all the service pages are gone. Now we're just gonna focus on these two things. Typically, that's what marketing folks might say, or maybe the leadership team is so happy the website's so clean. Well, sadly, clean doesn't mean much to Google. You can have a clean design, but you're gonna need content, right? You're gonna need to have beautiful mobile experiences. You're gonna have to have fast loading website. You're gonna have a lot less code than the last one so that it can load faster. That's what Google's looking for. It's not necessarily looking for clean in terms of, hey, we have half the content and we got rid of the blog section. It's a really simple website. Well, a really simple website is not gonna drive organic traffic. Content-less website isn't gonna rank for anything. you're actually losing a lot more than you think. In fact, if you work with SEO folks like ourselves, you're going to see that we're going to recommend content expansion, content consolidation, go back in old blog posts and update it to make sure the content is much more new. And if the information is outdated, maybe it was written for 2019, it was written for 2017, we're gonna spruce that up and make it the current year that you're in to make sure there's nothing on the website is not being utilized from an SEO perspective. So you gotta remember, people don't just search the same keyword all the time. Different people search for different things. So if you have a page that's indexed and ranking for a particular term, you want to make sure that you preserve that. You want to make sure that those links are still working. You want to make sure that page is still there and all the inbound links are not going to be going to a 404, right? Anything that people have linked to that piece of content, it's not going to a broken page where you lose the authority. In a nutshell, if you want to make sure that you preserve the traffic, you preserve the leads, then you can do is plan as much as possible in advance. Make sure that you're not losing any of the traffic that you built. That's the best thing I can tell you. Then work with an SEO to really map out the changes. I'm sure if you Google website redesign SEO checklist, there's gonna be 100 things that you could find. Implement every single thing. My best recommendation, the things that I mentioned here, make sure the pages aren't gone. If it's consolidated, make sure every single page has a 301 redirect that is being touched. Number 2, the content, the title tag, the meta description. Anything that Google is looking at, the primary things, anything that you can make sure is preserved is going to get you out of trouble. So you're not going to be losing sleep because your website has lost traffic. So let's talk about the reverse. If you didn't do these things, you didn't roll out, and Google's like, hey, my old pages are gone. Looks like this webmaster doesn't really have anything new for it. It is going to start to de-index those pages that used to be there. And once it's gone, it's not easy to get it back. Imagine putting all that stuff back into a redesign. It's going to take twice as much work. So the unfortunate does happen quite a lot, more than you think, because most of the web designers may or may not actually, the person that's doing the work may or may not know SEO, right? They may not know what the implications of the changes, even if you're the best in class developer, you may or may not be open, you may not know the knowledge, you may not have what it takes to make sure the traffic is going to be preserved. It has nothing to do with your knowledge in coding. It has everything to do with knowing how Google operates, right? Knowing what are the implications if we get rid of this page, how much traffic would we lose, and literally how many leads would we be getting from this page that is going to be gone. If you start doing that, you'll know where I'm coming from. You'll know that the smartest of developers may not be making the best SEO decision. They might be making a really great coding decision, right? So at the end of the day, you can't blame the developer, can't blame the marketer, you can't blame the copywriter. It's not anybody's fault. It's just really planning out the SEO implications of a redesign and really making sure that those things are addressed and that you have a strategy, right? A contingency plan, and then start to roll out the changes, test, right? And then do some QA, insane amount of QA. Make sure every top pages that Google's indexing, you can pull that up from Google Analytics. Make sure all those pages are still preserved. The pages that have the highest conversions, everything is still there, especially the content, the H1, the H2. And if you were to take the old website and the new website, the new one should be way better, much more pixel perfect, especially on a mobile device, and it loads way faster. If you can do that with a redesign, you can have this kind of a chart, right? It'll be going up. This is where the old website was, and the new one, you can insanely see the traffic going up. That's, my friend, is exciting to see, right? When a website redesign actually takes off the traffic, and rather than making it go down. So work with the best team that you can get your hands on, find out what you may not know about this redesign, and make sure that you have a great plan and slow rollout, right? So that you can actually revert back if need be. We've been through lots and lots of website redesign, lots of nightmares, lots of story to tell. If you want to learn one of those stories, the best thing you can do is jump on a call with one of our consultants and say, hey, what was the worst thing that ever happened when you guys rolled out a website? Well, it might not be us, it's somebody else's story, but we typically get involved and fix those situations. That's what we do here at 1IMS, right? We have over 100 consultants that can help you fix stuff, guys. It can help you move the mountain, if I may, fix the challenges in figuring out your website redesign, figuring out SEO strategy, figuring out how to double, triple, quadruple your traffic and conversions. That's what we do here every single day. So if you have any questions about whether it's a redesign or planning a redesign, or actually you just redesign your website, but now it's time to build the content, it's really time to scale up the marketing and the traffic, We'd love to have a conversation with you. Feel free to get in touch with one of our consultants. But if you like this video, click that like button, click that subscribe button if you enjoy this type of content, because trust me, every entrepreneur, every business, every company out there will need to redesign their website at some point. Leave me a comment. Tell me a funny story if you have one about, hey, the last website I worked on, the traffic tanked and how you fixed it. Love to know, and maybe even have a follow-up. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.